Welcome back to MT's Corner with Myesha-Tiara, where we discuss everything involving acting. Make sure you like, comment, and share, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be there every single time I post a new video.
See this because it's a huge story on BET.com. You retweeted something recently saying that the reaction to you playing Nina Simone was reverse racism. Do you believe that that's reverse racism directed at you?
I think this is a subject that I would love to go more in depth when we are doing press for Nina. All I can say is that though it did sting for a bit that a community that you feel most identified with would have such a negative backlash and you're the epicenter of it all, it was very disappointing. But at the same time too, it's understandable. And all I can say is the people that came together to do Nina came all together out of love for Nina. So that will never be wrong, and I will always stand behind that.
Y'all, it took me a minute to even do this video. However, here I am, and after 8 years, Zoe Saldana has apologized for her part in the Nina Simone biopic.
I should have never played Nina. I should have never played Nina. I should have done everything in my power with the leverage that I had 10 years ago, which was a different leverage, but it was leverage nonetheless. I should have tried everything in my power to cast a black woman to play an exceptionally perfect black woman. It's growing, it's painful. I thought back then that I had the permission because I was a black woman, and I am, but it was Nina Simone, and Nina had a life and she had a journey that should have been, and it should be honored to the most specific detail, because she was a specifically detailed individual about her voice and her opinions and her views and her music and her art, and she was so honest, so she deserved better. But that said, so I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, because I love her music, but it wasn't enough, it shouldn't have been enough. But that said, she's one of our giants. Somebody else should step up. Somebody else should tell her story, because she's one of those people that I'm besotted that Nina Simone, her story hasn't been like a global fucking impact when we're taking her music for car and we're using it in car commercials, or I'm taking her image and her story and I think that I'm okay to tell it. We've been appropriating ourselves with someone like Nina Simone for a very long time, and I just want her story to be told, and I want it to be right because she deserves it, and our America deserves it, because the Americans that inhabit today's America deserve her story to be told. And I know better today, and I'm never going to do that again. Never. So there. But I'm learning. I'm still processing. I've been processing it for 10 years, and I think it's a conversation that I want to have. I'm not going to allow people to violate me and to make me feel less than, but I am going to be open to this conversation so that we can grow from it, and we can give back to ourselves and to each other our identity. For fuck's sake, it's about time.
There is so much to dismantle here, so I'll start at the beginning. I felt a way about it in 2012 when I first heard about it, and I couldn't articulate why. At the time, I had just filmed my first movie, which I will do a story time on at a later date, and I was on a high. I was a sophomore in college and ready to take on the acting world. A friend of mine actually told me about the Nina Simone movie casting, and that at the time, Zoe Saldana was slated to portray her. However, before Zoe Saldana was slated to portray her, it was to go to Mary J. Blige. Titled Nina Saldana and scripted by Cynthia Mort, the biopic is based on Simone's 1992 autobiography, I Put a Spell on You. Mary J. Blige was linked to the title role back in 2010, but it is said to have moved on following funding difficulties. Then it came across Zoe, and Saldana has said that other actors who better resembled Simone passed on the role, that she herself declined it for a year. Now, I never knew that Mary J. Blige was slated for the role first, and that confused me as well, due to, like Zoe, she didn't look anything like Nina either to me, which Nina's looks were a very important part of who she was and how she was seen and treated. Now, I'm sure Mary could have sung it, no question there, but when I looked at Nina, I saw myself. I saw a woman who looked like me. So when my friend told me about Zoe being slated for the role and how many black actresses were not here for this casting.
What are your true thoughts about the casting for Nina Simone roles? You know, people have particular thoughts about that. I feel like you do as well. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have any thoughts on Nina Simone's story and how that went about?
Zoe she is a woman of color.
Yes.
But I think that we need to be a little more true to our stories, but I don't wish any harm on her. You know, we're actresses, we want to work, but I think that there were women who might have been more of a truer, just what may have been a better choice, but I'm sure that she'll do a wonderful job.
There's so many other actresses that were absolutely right on for that role. Viola Davis, musically India Ari, and that's just two off the top of my head. The makeup alone frightened me because I was like, I didn't know what I was looking at. Do I love the actress who's playing her? I love that actress. Is this necessarily the role that I would have chosen? No, but somebody did. Somebody liked her, loved her enough to give her their money, make that movie with her in it.
She then told me that she had emailed the casting company on my behalf, unbeknownst to me, with my headshots and how I should at least be considered for an audition. Of course, I never heard back. I was a no-name and they had already decided they wanted Zoe, who had a name. That's how the industry works, and I'm sure I wasn't the only black actress trying to lobby for the role, so no love lost there. However, when Zoe said actresses who closer resembled her passed on it, I found that to be a bit dishonest. But perhaps not on her part, but the casting director's part. They very well could have told her that lie. Many times I hear that same story of people passing on parts. However, I promise you, if casting had had an open call, there would have been thousands of dark-skinned black women who could act and sing, ready to audition. Not that any of them needed to know how to sing. If they found one that couldn't, they could have had a singer dub the singing parts easily. And before you say they needed a name to push the film, the industry has had unknowns as leads in biopics before and struck gold. However, if they were that nervous on not making their money back or getting investors, I'm sure Oprah could have dropped a few stacks of acts, among other Hollywood elite, if asked in the right manner. Heck, they could have made the second lead in the film a name if they had to. One Twitter user said, Hollywood's so quick to find real dark-skinned actors to play slaves, but can't even cast a real dark-skinned woman to play a dark-skinned woman. I hate it here, which I can definitely agree with. Michaela Cole even said, it is made even more upsetting when Michaela Cole said back in 2016 that she would only play the role if she had the family's blessing. I've always had a connection to Nina Simone, Cole said, but I respect her and her family so much that I would only do that if they were asking me to do it. Now, Michaela brought up a great point, the family's blessing. When it comes to biopics for me, if the family didn't bless it, I side-eye it, because it most likely will be extremely inaccurate, which was the case for the Nina Simone biopic, which we will discuss in detail in a moment. After landing the role, Zoe then pretty much got in blackface and filmed it. They darkened her skin and gave her a prosthetic nose and fake teeth, and by they, I mean the makeup and prosthetics team. If you haven't noticed yet, I haven't shown you a single black person, or better yet, African American, Black American, or ADOS, whichever you identify as, on the production team. Kyra Brown actually wrote an article about it, and here is the team behind Nina. As you can see, there is no one who actually looked like Nina involved, except David Oyelowo, who is not a Black American. I point out he isn't Black American because although he may identify as a Black person, all Black people do not have the same cultural backgrounds. Nina was a dark-skinned, phenotypically Black American woman in America who had to deal with the adversity that came with that. And if they had at least one dark-skinned Black American woman involved with the project, even as a consultant, it could have made the project more well-received, more accurate, and probably wouldn't have Zoe cast at all. After the picture started to surface of Zoe in the whole Nina costume, because honestly, that's what it looked like to me, a costume, it received even more backlash. Those involved with the project seemed to not understand what people were upset about. The most important thing, said Robert Johnson, whose studio is releasing Nina, is that creativity or quality of performance should never be judged on the basis of color or ethnicity or physical likeness. And even Zoe was confused. She thought people didn't want her to play the part because they didn't perceive her as Black enough.
That it is a topic that has brought much pain to a community.
You do understand that, though.
Of course,
Okay.
absolutely. But I was silent because I'm never going to justify or explain my Blackness. I know who I am. I do not have a problem with that. I don't hate myself for being Black. I don't think I'm privileged for being lighter. I don't think I'm privileged for being lighter. I wasn't raised with lighter, lightest, lightest. I don't understand. Do you understand what I'm saying? My mother is still to this day the kind of person that if she shares with you an anecdote about an individual, she doesn't go, I was hanging out with my friend who's gay, unless the story is about something that was about him being gay. So I don't know how to describe people in boxes. I don't know how to act when I'm boxed into something.
I will say, because of how she was raised, that is how she viewed things. However, I don't believe that was why people were upset. Zoe identifies as a Black woman, and she has every right to do so. However, she technically is an Afro-Latina. Saldana, who is a light-skinned woman of Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Haitian descent. And her ethnic makeup is not the same as Nina Simone, which is a huge part of why Nina had to deal with the things she did, which makes them, Nina and Zoe, similar, however, not the same. I personally don't like when Black Americans are erased in biopics by those who aren't Black Americans, because we don't share the same experiences. Similar, but not the same. And so many well-trained Black American actors get overlooked when it comes time for those films, it seems, recently. Now, Zoe brought up the point of it being because she's a lighter and how she doesn't believe in those things. This was in 2016, of course, and maybe she's grown from then. However, in her apology in 2020, she never addressed what was the biggest elephant in the room: colorism. It is real, and it affects people across all color lines. Colorism means 1. A form of bias that is based primarily upon skin tone and hair type. 2. Present in cultures all over the world. 3. Occurs on an intergroup and intra-group basis. And 4. An evil that must end. Now, I could get over her being played by a non-Black American, at least if said woman looked like her. When I look at Zoe, I don't see myself. I used to love her and saw myself in her, if only culturally, when I was younger, because she was in a lot of Black films at the time, like Guess Who and Drumline. As her career became bigger, I did see her in less and less films like that, which didn't bother me because I love her in the MCU and in Colombiana. But with those new roles comes a new fan base who aren't exclusively Black and don't understand the complex issues within our community, which some Black people don't understand either, and don't understand how Hollywood has treated us and treats us in some cases till this day. So you see comments like this about the Nina film. How the hell can she appropriate her own culture? Why is she letting critical race theorists define who she is? She's always publicly presented herself and identified as a Black woman. She's not Rachel Dolezal or Sean King. She isn't faking it. It's her lived experience. They say her culture, however, that isn't Zoe's cultural makeup. And actress apologizes for doing her job. The film Nina was mostly criticized for being an oversimplified biopic with a weak script. It scores 2% on Rotten Tomatoes. I wonder if Zoe would have apologized if the movie had been a blockbuster smash hit. They have a point with the script possibly being weak. However, to state that most of the criticism comes from the script alone shows how little that the Black actors and Black community are considered when these projects are being made. And I don't know about Black enough, but she was too hot for that role. Should have been Leslie Jones, laughing my ass off. Implying that she's too beautiful to portray a dark-skinned woman, so it should go to Leslie Jones, who they consider less desirable, and apparently Nina as well, which is even more of a reason for people to do this project correctly. More often than not, darker-skinned Black women are erased on film, and a handful are seen as an idea of progress, which is false when these same women may not be paid what Zoe or their white counterpart are being paid for those big screen roles, if they even have the opportunity opportunity to audition for said roles. And that is what I believe Zoe may not have considered throughout the entire process before, as she stated in her Sway interview, it seems as if she does not see color based on her story of how she was raised. However, we should all see color. Seeing color doesn't mean you discriminate. It means you are aware of the inequalities in the world and you actively work not to contribute to them. And because she didn't see color, that is exactly what she did, contribute to those inequalities. Nina Simone herself was a black woman who saw color and spoke about it often.
I think what you're trying to ask is why am I so insistent upon giving out to them that blackness, that black power, that black pushing them to identify with black culture. I think that's what you're asking. I have no choice over it. In the first place, to me, we are the most beautiful creatures in the whole world, black people. I mean that in every sense, outside and inside. And to me, we have a culture that is surpassed by no other civilization, but we don't know anything about it. So again, I think I've said this before in the same interview, I think at some time before, my job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
From every interview about the project, Zoe seems very invested and wants to tell this story so bad, and I appreciate that fact. And maybe she should have been a producer on the project. She spoke on her passion about the project and said, still she has no regrets. The script probably would still be lying around, going from office to office, agency to agency, and nobody would have done it. Female stories aren't relevant enough, especially a black female story, she says. I made a choice. Do I continue passing on the script and hope that the right black person will do it? Or do I say, you know what? Whatever consequences may bring about, my casting is nothing in comparison to the fact that this story must be told. The fact that we are talking about her, the Nina Simone is trending, we fucking won. Saldana continues, for so many years, nobody knew who the fuck she was. She's essential to our American history, as a woman first and only then as everything else. However, I think that also made her blind to some of the issues with the project itself, like having an almost exclusively white team to tell a black woman's story. To say Nina was a woman first and then everything else, as if it is an afterthought, negates her blackness. She can be black and a woman at the same time. She was not only a legend as a singer, but also pivotal in the civil rights movement and dealt with discrimination due to that fact. Black women shouldn't have to choose one then the other. We are both at the same time. If you listen to Mississippi Goddamn and For Women, you can clearly hear that in her music. Now, I don't believe this should be all on Zoe. The blame should be shared across the board with the team behind the film. One Twitter user said, let's talk about Heidi Levitt casting Zoe Saldana in the role of Nina Simone to begin with. Zoe Saldana got all the hateration, but it was a white woman who decided that blackface and an afro wig would work for a movie about Nina Simone. Don't forget. And they are absolutely correct. And they also did not receive the family's blessing at all. I told y'all I'd make my way back to this point. Nina's daughter said, while the family is not upset with Zoe, Simone Kelly said, she didn't think the actress was the proper choice, appearance-wise. There are many superb actresses of color who could more adequately represent my mother and could bring her to the screen with a proper script. The proper team in a sense of wanting to bring the truth of my mother's journey to the masses, she said. And Nina, in my opinion, doesn't do any of that. Watching the trailer didn't stir much emotion for Simone Kelly, who has been vocal against this production since 2006. I really don't feel much of anything except for poor Zoe, she said. Simone Kelly's husband, Rob Kelly, said it was difficult to watch the clip, which begins with a scene in which Saldana is strapped to a hospital bed after fighting doctors. Everything from the first scene when she's strapped to a gurney is a lie, Kelly 49 said. We're both very passionate about her legacy being told the right way. What she actually accomplished is not common, and most people don't know that. Outrage of the casting and storyline should be steered toward the film's director, Cynthia Mort, Simone Kelly said. The daughter has disavowed the movie for at least a decade and said that the family was not consulted during its production. Nina focuses on Simone's personal relationship with her mentor Clifton Henderson, played by David Oyelowo. The cinematic version of the story falsely depicts an iconic singer, her family said. The movie is about a relationship between my mother and Clifton, which never took place. They never had an amorous relationship, Simone Kelly said, adding that Henderson was a gay man. The project has been tainted from the very beginning. Clearly, it is not the truth about my mother's life, and everyone now knows that. This is not how you want your loved ones remembered. But most of the criticism is misdirected, Simone's daughter told Time in a rare interview Thursday. It is unfortunate that Zoe Saldana is being attacked so viciously when she is someone who's part of a larger picture, said Simone Kelly, 53, who also an actress and singer. It's clear she brought her best to this project, but unfortunately, she's being attacked when she's not responsible for any of the writing or the lies. Her daughter said she's more at peace with the controversial film after the release of the authorized documentary, What Happened, Miss Simone. The film, directed by Liz Garbus, received a 2016 Oscar nomination and accurately depicts the life of the prominent recording artist, according to the family. I'm no longer bothered by it because the truth is already out there, said Simone Kelly, who is releasing her second musical album in France next week, and this was a few years back when this article was made. I don't have to justify, define, or educate anybody about my mother anymore. It's a wonderful feeling. I'm free in a way that I have never been before. Now you may think, okay, this happened in 2016. Who cares now? Well, it resurfaced in 2020 on Hulu, and then she issued an apology a few months afterwards, and that caused an uproar, as many black women who felt the sting in 2012 felt it all over again 8 years later. Some said, whatever. People told her that when she accepted the role, and she ignored them. They told her when she was making the film, and she ignored them. Now that she has all the money she's going to earn from the project, she regrets her decision, completely pandering for the movement. Didn't we try to tell her not to do this, but she wouldn't listen? Now she wants to cry? Nina biopic deserved better, so much better. I got 10 minutes into watching the movie and had to turn it off once I saw that it gave Zoe a fake nose. The focus of the movie turned to be more focused on Zoe actually look of having her skin darkened and her hair being an actual wig. It was upsetting to not be able to hear Nina's story and see it being portrayed the correct way instead of focusing on the image of Zoe as Nina. The goal of this movie was not to present a positive movie about civil rights activist and musician. The film was produced by Eminem's collaborator. He is a white guy who produced 8 Mile. The goal was not to make a movie like Ray based on the life of Ray Charles or the Tina Turner What's Love Got to Do With It movie. David Oyelowo also produced the film and put his wife, who was white, to play a role. Nina Simone was shown as a chain-smoking drunk who couldn't get booked. It was not a well-developed examination of her life or career. It showed a fictional chapter of a European tour. It was not well done. Because this bombed, another film is not likely to get greenlit. It took years for this movie to get distribution after it was shot. The backlash and boycott hurt the film. One of the producers complained about it. But not every black woman feels that way. Some said, Denzel Washington portrayed Malcolm X in 1992. Different shades, but still black. So why did #Zoe Saldana apologize for not being black enough to play Nina Simone? It's acting. And someone replied to her and said, the prosthetic and brown face, LOL. In my opinion, she should have portrayed the role as herself as he did. She may believe she took the role from more talented, darker skinned actress, as they usually end up in more stereotypical roles, but I'm not sure how apologizing achieves anything. Now, people love to say it's just acting when they are represented in the media. Like I always say, representation matters, especially to kids. I remember loving Halle Berry so much in Catwoman, Babs, Losing Isaiah, and so many more projects. Because as a child, I didn't know she was biracial, and it didn't matter at the time because I didn't understand erasers. I saw a brown-looking woman and said, she is me. I am Catwoman. I am Susie Carmichael. I am Dion. I am Tony Childs. I am Maxine Shaw. I am Spirit. I can keep going, but I think you get the point. I was searching for myself as so many young black girls, especially darker ones, do in the media. Now, their Denzel point could make sense. However, like the other person states, Denzel didn't lighten his skin or have a fake nose to look like Malcolm X. However, they said, what does an apology do? Well, it can do a lot for someone who was hurt by another's actions. I know I was when I fully understood the issue with what Zoe did and was able to articulate it, unlike when I felt uncomfortable about it in my dorm room in 2012. For now, I will somewhat accept her apology, but handle her choices with a long-handled spoon. As for the team behind it, who never cared to even get the family's blessing in the first place and has never apologized, you will always get the side eye from me, as well as those who accept apologies on black people's behalf. Let me know your thoughts below. Do you think Zoe should have apologized? Do you now understand what the uproar was about? Or do you think people should get over things like colorism and erasers because they don't exist? I want to know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Y'all stay safe out there, and I'll see you online next time.